This lecture is going to be about the relevance of video in today's world and some other technology. This, lec- this lecture is going to be about the relevance of video in today's world and some other technology timeline things you've probably never thought of that should really inspire you and really get you activated and moving towards getting the job done, getting out and creating videos because why the hell not? It's 2020. Let's go. So, today, YouTube is the second most used search engine. Think about that. People go online for articles, pictures, news, yada, 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 and YouTube is the second most used search engine right behind Google. TikTok and Instagram are at the top of the apps store charts and continue to be. This is not going to change anytime soon. Video, of course, is at the forefront of all types of communication in the modern day. People watch, oh my God, people watch over 160 million hours of video on Netflix a day. A day. That's a day. 160 million hours. Like that is just, I don't even know. I'm not sure if that's a good or bad thing. But moving on, YouTube has 1 billion hours of videos viewed a day. A billion hours. That's insane. There's 500 hours of video uploaded every minute to YouTube. And the e-learning market, such as online courses like the one you're watching right now, is going to be a $325 billion industry by 2025. And the last thing is that people from 1996, that were born from 1996 to 2011, Generation Z apparently is what you call them. I'm like in the millennial generation. I guess Gen Z is below me. You guys watch on average of 68 videos a day? That's freaking ridiculous. I know that's spread across Facebook, Instagram, all the platforms, but 68 videos a day. That's a little bit ridiculous, right? OMG. So, creatives are more desired and empowered than ever. You being a video creator watching this course, it's wanted, it's needed, it's being sought after, it's being looked at and searched all around the world. Billion hours a day on YouTube alone, right? So the market is there, the people are there, the industry is there, it's growing, it's only going to continue to grow. And I just wanted to put some of those wild numbers in your, you know, perspective to kind of really get an understanding of how much potential there is for you to grow as a creator. Now, the question is, what part do you play in this modern day creative revolution where video is at the forefront of communication? So let's start with your tools in this age of content. We're going to start with your equipment, then we're going to dive into sharing, and then we're going to look at learning. Okay, these are going to be your three main pillars that you're going to use and that you're going to understand after this lecture of how to use it and how much of benefit you have today with this equipment. So let's get into it. Oh, this is pretty cool. The transformation of equipment. You guys know what that is? Yeah, that was how films and videos used to be shot. Old cameras, okay? Today we have new cameras, DSLRs, phones, you know. So just to put things into perspective, the old cameras back in the day, it was over $13,000 for 90 minutes of footage, okay? Imagine that. For the new cameras today, it's about 30 bucks for 128 gigs of footage. That's way beyond 90 minutes. And this wasn't too long ago. This, 20, 30, 40 years ago is not that long. That's only, a few generations. The days to process were took time before you could actually watch the footage back on these old school cameras. So if you want to shoot something like right now and I wanted to look at it, make sure it's in focus, make sure it's exposed for to see if my idea came across in the footage, I would have to wait days to see the damn thing. Okay, can you imagine that? In the new content today, or in the new cameras today, of course, playback footage is instantaneous, and it costs no money to expose the footage itself. This old camera style takes 3 people to operate, okay? This new style takes 1 person to operate, and you can even have a steady cam, a gimbal on it, you know the deal. So one of your strongest tools is the equipment, right? It's more accessible than ever to create, share, and learn. And technology like smartphones and well-priced cameras put high-quality video into the hands of so many people, right? Which can be a good and bad thing. I was a little bit uncertain when like Instagram came around and it was like, whoa, now everyone's a photographer, but quality is an excellent filter. And people who create quality content, which rises to the top, they're creating something that they are good at and that they've done and they have a passion around. So it's very important. So what used to cost thousands of dollars is now under $1,000, right? What fits in your pocket is becoming almost indistinguishable from high-end equipment. And this is only going to grow. You know, the biggest thing that I hear from my students is like a lot of harping on the equipment side and a lot of that being a barrier and a block. But I'm going to show you in this next video that those barriers and those walls are going down. They're getting dissolved, and that's good for people like you and me. All right, so let's get into it. As this is going to continue, it's going to increase with technology. Watch. So let's check it out. So this is an iPhone 11 footage versus the Red Scarlet. I personally am more than happy with both of the footage. And you know, of course, out of the phone, the iPhone is doing, you know, image processing and sharpening and contrast. And so actually out of the phone, it looks better than uncolor graded and uncolor corrected Scarlet footage. But that's because there's no processing. But the point is that side by side, you know, a 20, 30, $40,000 camera versus something that fits in your pocket is able to stand up against each other. Okay. So just to decimate that thing that might be holding you back from acting on your passion in your next project around the equipment. Yes, it's helpful to have good equipment. I'm not downplaying that. Of course, I'm shooting on a DSLR rather than my phone for obvious reasons. But the whole purpose of what I'm saying is to get you going, right? To remove the blockages so that you can move forward. So what does this increase in available tech mean, right? We're going to have the power of entire movie equipment trucks in our pocket, right? The ability to create without the restrictions of money is going to continue to grow. Excellent for video creators. More power is being placed in the hands of the individual rather than the corporation or large industry veterans, right? The large production companies, the large film industry giants, those people used to be at the top of the food chain, and you couldn't really get any video seen by people, which we're gonna touch on that. You couldn't get it seen, right? You would shoot a home movie at your house, pop in the VHS tape, and it would be get seen by your grandma and grandpa, and that's the only people that would see your content. Today it's different. And now is the time to start creating, right? Because this gap, we've gotten to this point where technology is empowering us, and now is the time. And just to kind of wrap up this lecture, you know, the whole point is just showing you that it's available. We have the equipment. The modern day person, the average individual has a good enough technology in their pocket that they can start. So I don't want that to be a hindrance for you guys. I want it to be clean and clear that you have what you need and you can build from there. Okay. I don't have my camera today, but generally I show the camera that I started out with, little flip out thing with the SD tape, mini SD tape that wasn't even HD. It was 720 pixels by 480 pixels. So you have to start somewhere, and the equipment that we have is pretty damn good. So let's hop into the next lecture and we'll talk about how sharing and technology plays into your role as a video creator. Okay, so there are a few more things that I want to illuminate for you guys before we hop into this next learning exercise. And the next thing is that today sharing is virtually free and accessible worldwide. And I think that that's something that we can kind of take for granted. And if we don't currently understand it fully because maybe we were born with having an iPad from day one, we don't necessarily appreciate or trust or see the tools as they are because whatever is consistently in front of you, you kind of become blind to it, right? So, yeah, the point of this lecture before getting into the learning exercise is to really see the tools that we do have so we can identify that we're tools, that they are tools, and then we can move forward with actually using them. So it wasn't always the case, right, that we have this amazing source of technology and communication. I'm just going to paint this picture for you, okay? And you should be at the end of this lecture feeling very inspired. So, this is how we used to watch content for the day, okay? There was a certain scheduled program on a little black and white TV box in the living room of your house, and you would go and watch, Cowboys and Indians, and that would be your like 30 minutes or an hour of content for the day. Today, of course, this is how we watch content now. We have an unlimited stream and availability of so many different types of content that we can access. Okay, that's easily taken for granted, but I'm gonna hop into why that's important. So this is a really cool little kind of story or picture that I want to, share with you guys. So if we take a step back and we kind of look at layers and levels of communication over time, first we had the newspaper, right? Then we had a radio, then we had television, then we had desktop computers, and now we have smartphones, okay? These each were a platform to communicate information, and this is how the world was connected at the time of these technologies. So let's look at the newspaper, for example. If an event happened and a story got approved by a company, okay, this is what would happen. The event would happen, a writer would write about it, okay? He would hear about the event first, and then he would write about it. Who knows how long it would take for him to hear about the event? The write up would get approved by management from where he works. An industrial company would print it. It would get packaged. It would get finally delivered to outlets. And then it would make its way to a delivery person on a bicycle where he would throw it onto your driveway. You wake up, you read your newspaper, and that's your content for the day. Okay. This was once the Instagram of the time. Okay. Newspapers were once the YouTube of the time. Okay. So imagine trying to be a video creator in that time. Don't think that it would work. Okay. And you would have to go through all of these hoops if you wanted to be a writer or a reporter. You'd have to go through all these hoops. So the reason that I'm sharing this is that the access from how media is thought of and then delivered used to be step one, step two, step three, step four, step five, step six. Now it's a lot different. So let that kind of marinate for a minute. So the point behind this is that today your message has a place to be heard, right? Our creativity has no barriers almost from an idea to delivery. Platforms like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook allow for anyone to share content from one step versus the prior stages that I just mentioned, multi financial steps, multi hierarchical steps, all those things. So this content is then accessed for free to anyone in the world. This shift to, social media also places the personal over the professional. And this is where it gets really interesting, is one part that I really like and keeps me, inspired to continue to create. So people want to hear from others that they relate to and enjoy watching. This is where you step in, right? You're getting clear on what you enjoy sharing and your passion behind it. And then there's always going to be a group of people that you can easily connect to online that share that same exact kind of passion, right? So let's dive into this more. And I'm going to kind of explain this in a way that should really, really cement this idea in your mind so that a year from now, when you are facing barriers and hurdles, you should feel empowered to continue. So let's talk about the company versus the creator. Okay. This is when it kind of really dawned on me. I was like, wow, this was kind of more towards the beginning of social media. Um, and I kind of got an Instagram, but I'm sure you're familiar with the company Bayer. They make all the Advil or Tylenol or whatever it's called that's legitimately in almost everyone's home around the world, okay? Huge multi-billion dollar company that's been in business for 150 years. And it's not that it's all about followers, but this is just explaining a point that this multi-billion dollar company cannot buy their way to communicating with a large group of people with the amazing technology and platforms we have today. Okay. They are under 7,000 followers on Instagram. All right. In contrast, we have someone like Peter McKinnon. I'm sure you're all super aware of him. He's just a cool guy that creates videos and talks about filmmaking. He doesn't have $53 billion. He hasn't been in business for 150 years, right? He just has a passion that he goes and executes on and shares and offers value and entertainment at the same time. So this is where I want you guys to really kind of start shifting gears, right? And he has 2.2 million followers. So that's a hands down perspective really on why now is the time. Why you right now today are more empowered than people have ever been for the last thousands of years. That's the whole point of this monologue, right? So, what about developing creative skills though, right? Have you ever used one of these? Do you even know what this is? Yeah, that's called a user's manual. It's a very ancient piece of paper, sometimes called papyrus, where they stack the paper and then there's letters and hieroglyphs on it. And then you open the paper and you dissect what the paper says to learn how to do something with the piece of equipment that you own. Yes, this is a user's manual. I've never used one. I don't know if you guys have. I definitely don't enjoy reading them or using them in general. The first thing I do when I get a new piece of equipment is throw the user's manual aside. So, today's learning is instantaneous and widespread like never before. Just like we have these tools to share and create, we also have these tools to learn. So, we can instantly learn from teachers, free or unpaid. It's interesting because 86% of people in the US alone say that they use YouTube to learn new skills. And of course, there's over like hundreds, thousands of online courses on Udemy. And the ability to pause, replay, just like what you can do right now, has massive benefit. And the question isn't where to find the information anymore, but it's, from who and how do you choose to learn? This is a brand new, amazing opportunity that we have today. So I tell people that I have a master's degree in YouTube because I personally was learning so much more from after I would get home from film school. I would Google and YouTube and watch tutorials on what I wanted to learn. And in that 5-minute window, I would learn so much more than I did for sitting all day in class. And the cool thing is that this learning goes both ways. And it's the last thing that I'll say about this specific topic is that down the road, well, let's just say, let me back up a minute. Right now, you're learning online. You have the tools and the ability. Down the road, this learning goes both ways, where I gained my master's degree in YouTube, and then now I give back that information. So it's a really cool synergistic effect that, creates a lot of fulfillment down the road, whether you guys want to teach or entertain. You're learning and then you're giving back. This is the value based content that I mentioned that's the most revolutionary part of the internet, right? Not cat videos. So, if that doesn't give you a good understanding of the tools that you have available, I don't know. But I just really wanted to paint this picture for you guys so that you felt that you have, a reminder of, the times that we live in, because sometimes it can be easy to forget. So in the next lecture, we're going to talk about my firsthand experience, and then we're going to hop into our next learning exercise. Yes, we've made it this far. I'm super, super excited to be sharing these next lectures with you guys. We've been building a solid foundation, getting on the same page about our creativity. And now, I really like this part because we're going to be diving into really the deep, deep, most more interesting stuff to me is how our creativity and how our videos can affect other people. So we're going to really be diving into understanding the power of audio and video. So we're about to go deep, okay? Straight up Inception style. So let's get into it. And after this deep dive, we're going to go through two learning exercises. One on the production details for your upcoming projects, and then the other one is really coming up with an awesome rock solid concept. So let's go for the deep dive. Let's take a look at the evolution of expression. Now, when people wanted to express an idea, thousands of years ago, they'd use words and stories. And then came art and paintings and drawing and music. This was kind of the way things grew with, you could call it media at that time. Followed by photography and now video, which is the most powerful and the most used. Each medium has gotten more and more effective over time at conveying the original creator's idea. And that's really the way I like to look at art is you're transmitting the idea within you through your artistic medium, whether that's a paintbrush or a violin or a guitar or a camera, you're translating your idea into another person. And depending on which kind of artist you are, is how you transmit that idea. So I think that's super, super fascinating. Let's dive deeper. Each new medium uses more and more of our senses as time has gone by. So, to get a pretty deep here, we take life through our five senses, right? What you see, hear, smell, and taste. Stick with me here. It's going to be good. Each medium created has engaged more of these senses as time has gone on, right? Photography is visual, music is audible. You could live without taste, touch, smell, but seeing and hearing is really crucial. And what I mean by that is that we take in life primarily through our sight and sound, right? Seeing and hearing. These are like the two strongest fundamental senses out of the five. You could go without smelling. Yeah, it would kind of suck. You could go without taste. Yeah, kind of suck too. Without touch would kind of suck. But your life would be radically changed without seeing and hearing. So that means we pick up the majority of life and it holds more of an importance. And we'll get into why that's actually significant. Video uses these two primary senses that I'm mentioning, sight and sound, which the brain uses to take in most information in life. When you think of your favorite movie, you can imagine the scenes and feel the feeling of what it was like watching the movie and what happened because it's getting picked up by your sight and sound senses. This gives video the ability to most closely replicate real life experiences. What this does is it transmits one's idea directly from one person to another in a way that is memorable. Just like I mentioned with the creative artist transmitting their idea. If we're transmitting with the two strongest senses simultaneously at the same time, we really have strong power as video creators. So here's how it works. On one side, we have a blank square, okay? This is, one piece of information that you're taking in visually, one pixel. How does this pixel make you feel? Is there any response from this pixel? Is it like inspiration or excitement or joy? I don't know. It's pretty neutral. There's not much going on. There's not much of a story being told. There's not a whole lot of information being transmitted. Now let's look at a slightly more complex piece of information, this red heart. So we have more information that creates a feeling in the person who's viewing it, right? How does this make you feel, right? There's a lot of sensations and emotions associated with the color red, with the shape of the heart, with all of the stuff that's attributed to it because there's enough information there that you're picking up on visually that's creating a response within you. Following? All right, let's keep going. So let's move into more information being shown. So here we now have moving visuals rather than just static imagery. Right. So what you just saw was a montage with no sound, just video, visuals. And if you could throw some words out there of, what you felt, maybe it was, I don't know, peace, relaxation. There was a lot of brightness, a lot of sunniness, a lot of nature, a lot of just calm footage overall. So I would imagine that the response that you felt that was in the footage, you also felt within yourself. Let's see what else we have. Now, how does this example of visuals make you feel? Yeah. All right, so how did that make you feel, right? We're just looking at imagery. There's no sound, there's nothing going on. But were you at ease and at peace? Or were you feeling tension? Were you feeling like uncertainty, maybe? Were you feeling experience of something that didn't feel good, right? So, yeah, kind of interesting. What's happening on the screen is also happening within you, the viewer. Now, let's take that same concept and let's move to sound. All right. So, was that a joyful experience for you? Was that an inspiring experience? Or were you feeling tension? Were you feeling tightness? Were you feeling, yeah, anxiousness, right? Hmm. So, also, what's happening on the screen, audibly, you know, we also feel internally. So, now let's move to a different type of sound.
Shakti Sundari.
Interesting. So, how was that sensation while you were listening? Was that anxiousness or was that relaxing and enjoyable, right? So, come up with your own, feel what that experience really felt like. So, we had really scary sounds that made us feel scared. Then we have more enjoyable sounds that make us feel more joy and more enjoyable. Now, if we combine this sight and sound, let's now see what the reaction is within you, the viewer. So, what did you feel during that? It's an interesting thing, right? The footage that we had seen that made us feel calm and relaxed, then mixed with the audio that we heard that made us feel anxious and uncertain, then created a very anxious and uncertain feeling when we were watching the good looking footage. So that's kind of fascinating, right? The contrast between the two. Now, I thought that this was the scary one. So is that even more scary now, right? Because the combination of both together creates an even more impactful experience through the sight and sound senses. Now, do you see how much this affects us, right? If we listen to this one, this is the original audio. Of course, I swapped them, but now this is even more empowered in the relaxing, comforting, and enjoyable type of video.
Parashakti Sundari.
So it's interesting to really take notice to this effect, right? How it's imprinting on you, how it's making you feel in this moment. And, just for fun, let's see what the scary footage with the happy music feels for you.
Mamba Lalita Devi Parashakti Sundari Namastasye Namastasye.
Isn't it almost like she was meeting her like lost relative, or she was being visited by an angel or some type of, yeah, deceased grandma or something in that situation, right? So it fully is impacting us. But the key is we have a massive ability to influence our viewer, which is a huge power and a huge responsibility as a video creator. So, to summarize this, what we see and hear, our brain syncs up to, right? An external scary sound or an inspiring visual that's happening outside is then recreated and felt internally. The reason this is powerful is because your creativity that you felt when you internally created something is then put externally into the world and felt by other people. So we totally have the power to influence other people's thoughts, emotions, lives, everything with our passion and creativity that turns into our films, that turns into influencing other people. So are we choosing to create, a funny video that someone can forget about the very next day? Or are we taking our creativity with a little bit more honor and respect and wanting to really use this information to create things that, change people's lives, right? Not to be woo woo and you could change someone's life tomorrow, but these are very real facts that's really interesting to understand and realize your own power as a video creator. So hopefully this is getting some of this stuff going up in the brain and some, juice that's getting moved around. So now I want to ask you again the same three questions that I asked before this lecture. On a scale from 1 to 10, do you believe your creativity has the ability to change other people's thoughts, right? Do you believe your creativity has the ability to change other people's emotions? And finally, do you feel that your creativity has the ability to influence other people's lives? I'm thinking that your answers from 1 to 10, if it was a 3 or 4 before, it should be double that. It should be like triple that. I mean, like, this is really the goal of this part of the course, is to really, yeah, show you that you have the power and then really explain to you what kind of powerful potential and gift you have as a video creator. And so now that we've gone super inception deep in this part of the course, I just wanted to take a second to open up for student Q&A. If you have a question about the material covered so far, feel free to drop it in the Q&A. And if you are enjoying this course, feel free to tell me what you think in a review. I need to turn this down. If you have any questions about the information that's been covered yet, feel free to drop those questions in the Q&A. Feel free to engage with the other students. And just as a reminder, before you leave a review, we still have a lot of course information to cover. We have multiple guest speakers that are going to come on and share their expert advice as video creators. We have quite a few more learning exercises that are going to dive into actually creating your concept, insights and specifics on Instagram, YouTube, and we're going to start to go even deeper into the video creation process. And I will see you guys in the next lecture where, yes, we are changing backgrounds for this part of the course. It's going to be a bonus guest speaker interview with a good friend of mine and very successful content creator, my buddy Daniel from Berlin. So I'll see you guys in the next lecture. Let's check it out.